My mom uninvited me from Easter this year. Her reason? Apparently, it's for successful children only. That one line told me everything about where I stood in her eyes. And the irony? For the last year and a half, I've been the one secretly keeping this family afloat, covering my golden boy brother's rent and paying my little sister's college expenses. So I texted her back, "Good luck with the next bill." Now, suddenly, they're all begging me to reconsider. Hey, Reddit. I never thought I'd be posting family drama here, but this Easter mess has gotten so out of hand that I need to lay it all out. I'm Marcus, 28. I work as a senior network engineer in Austin. Nothing glamorous. But I make about $95,000 a year, own a 2-bedroom condo I bought before the housing market went wild, drive a reliable Honda Accord that's paid off, and I got a solid emergency fund and a 401k. Not flashy, not Insta-worthy, but stable, responsible. The kind of life I built from scratch after starting out at a help desk with nothing more than a community college degree and some self-taught certifications. My family? That's where the story turns toxic. My mom, 52, raised us alone after Dad died in a construction accident when I was 14. She worked a modest job at the county clerk's office, made about $42,000 a year, and somehow stretched it to keep us alive. On paper, it sounds noble. In reality, she picked favorites early, and I was never one of them. Tyler, my younger brother, has always been her golden child. Star quarterback, 6'2", with a classic All-American look that made her beam at every high school game. Mom lived on Facebook posts about his future in the NFL. The truth? His future ended the moment he blew out his ACL in an off-season workout sophomore year. He lost a scholarship, failed his classes, and dropped out. Since then, he's been finding himself. What that really means is bouncing between part-time jobs, gyms, supplement stores, whatever, none lasting more than 6 months, because apparently every manager just didn't understand his potential. These days, he's a self-proclaimed influencer. 800 Instagram followers, 200 TikTok views on a lucky post, spitting out motivational captions like, "Grind never stops," under shirtless selfies. His income? Maybe $400 a month selling protein powder affiliate links, plus the occasional free gym membership. Still, Mom calls it entrepreneurship. She praises his dedication like he's on the verge of being discovered. And of course, he lives in an overpriced downtown apartment for networking reasons. $1,800 a month for a shoebox studio, paid for by yours truly. Then there's Emma, our sister. She's the academic darling. Valedictorian, SAT score of 1520, got into UT Pre-Med on a partial scholarship. Mom has her acceptance letter framed like it's the 10 Commandments. At every church function or family gathering, people hear about my daughter, the future doctor. She's brilliant, no doubt, but college is expensive. Even with scholarships, there are lab fees, housing, books that cost $300 each, and all the hidden expenses no one talks about. Emma's a good student, but she's also 20. She wants to live a little, to buy decent clothes, to go out with friends. So guess who Mom turns to when the scholarships don't cover it all? And then there's me, Marcus, the reliable one, the one who pays his bills, fixes computers, and never gets a shout-out. When Mom mentions me at church, it's a flat, "Marcus works with computers," said in the same tone you'd use to describe a guy bagging groceries. The financial bleeding started 18 months ago. Tyler had just been evicted from his last apartment after stiffing his roommates 2 months in a row. Instead of rent, he'd blown his money on a new iPhone and designer workout gear. He ended up couch surfing, his stuff piled in Mom's garage. Then came the phone call. Mom crying late at night about how her baby was going to end up living in his car. "Marcus," she said, "you know how hard it's been for Tyler since his injury. His dreams were crushed, and he's just trying to find his way. Could you help him, just until he gets back on his feet? Maybe cover the deposit and first month's rent." The guilt trip was Oscar-worthy. She painted him as this tragic fallen star, a victim of fate who just needed a little push. And I caved. I paid. I told myself it was temporary, just a few months. That was March of 2022. It's now March of 2024, and guess who's still covering his rent like clockwork? Emma's needs started around the same time. Scholarships only stretch so far, and pre-med isn't cheap. Books, food, lab fees, a new laptop, stuff she legitimately needed. And I didn't mind helping at first. She's hardworking, and I wanted her to succeed. But it turned into another monthly obligation on top of Tyler's rent. So here I am, 2 years of carrying this family financially, quietly, without thanks. And when Easter rolled around, Mom uninvited me, said the holiday dinner was for successful children only. She meant Tyler, the influencer who can't pay his own bills, and Emma, the future doctor whose tuition I've been quietly covering. Not me, not the son who actually keeps the lights on. So yeah, I cut them off. No more rent, no more tuition, no more bankrolling my siblings while being treated like I don't measure up. And now, suddenly Mom is calling, Tyler is texting, Emma is begging. Because the truth finally hit them, without me, the whole Golden family house of cards collapses. And honestly, I don't feel guilty. Not anymore. Mom always had this way of turning guilt into poetry. She gave me this whole speech once about how education wasn't just an expense. It was an investment in our family's future. Supporting Emma through med school, she said, would pay dividends for generations. Think about it, Marcus. When Emma becomes a doctor, she'll be able to help all of us. This isn't about tuition, it's about legacy. And then she brought up Dad. That was her ace card. Your father always said education was the one thing nobody could take away from you. Low blow, but it worked. So I started sending Emma $800 a month for books, food, living expenses. Add that to Tyler's rent, and suddenly I was bleeding $2,600 a month into family obligations. More than my mortgage. Here's the kicker. Neither Emma nor Tyler knew. Mom played middleman, weaving some story about life insurance money, savings, clever budgeting. To them, she was a saint, sacrificing everything so they could chase their dreams. Meanwhile, she never missed a chance to tear me down. Weekly phone calls, family dinners. It was always something. My apartment was too small, not in the right neighborhood. My car was embarrassing, especially next to Tyler's BMW, which, fun fact, I later learned I was also paying for. My clothes weren't sharp enough. My career wasn't ambitious enough. Marcus, you're 28 and still single, she'd say. Tyler has his business ventures. Emma's on her way to becoming a doctor. What are you doing with your life? The irony was suffocating. I was bankrolling the very success she praised, while being lectured for not achieving enough myself. Family dinners became endurance tests. Tyler would hold court, rattling on about his latest business. One week it was drop shipping. The next it was crypto, then fitness coaching without a single certification. He'd sit there scrolling his phone, saying things like, the fitness influencer space is exploding. I'm building my brand. Partnerships are coming. And Mom would eat it up, nodding like he was pitching to Shark Tank instead of recycling TikTok scams. He's got such an entrepreneurial spirit, she'd gush. Then Emma would chime in with updates about research, internships, MC80 prep. Mom would beam so bright you'd think Emma had already cured cancer. She'd brag to the table. Her professor said her paper was graduate-level work. My daughter, the future doctor. And then it'd be my turn. I'd mention certification, a new project at work, some tech trend I was excited about. Mom would nod for 30 seconds, then pivot. That's nice, dear. Tyler, tell everyone about that company interested in sponsoring you. That company turned out to be a local gym offering him free membership in exchange for Instagram posts. Tyler spun it like Nike had come knocking. I started skipping dinners, blaming work. Mom called me out, said I was isolating myself, not prioritizing family. Family should come first, Marcus. Work will always be there, but family is forever. The hypocrisy was unreal. I was literally funding 2/3 of her children's lives, yet somehow I was the one being scolded for not giving enough. Then last month, things finally blew up. Tyler's latest venture collapsed in spectacular fashion. He had convinced his gym buddies to invest in his revolutionary fitness app. In reality, It was a cookie-cutter workout tracker with some cheesy quotes pasted on top. But Tyler sold it like it was Silicon Valley's next unicorn. He promised him a product that would rival Nike Training Club, with plans to sell to a big-name company in 2 years. His friends pooled about $8,000. They thought they were buying stock in the future of fitness. But Tyler? He spent their money on new clothes, fancy dinners, a Miami trip to network with entrepreneurs. Not a single line of code was written. For months, he strung them along with excuses about delays and perfecting the user experience. Until finally they demanded proof. And that's when his whole house of cards started to tremble. Tyler's empire finally unraveled. There was no app, no developer, no master plan, just smoke, mirrors, and other people's money funding his lifestyle. His friends caught on, realized they'd been scammed, and the threats started coming fast. Lawsuits, fraud charges, even talk of pressing criminal complaints. Tyler panicked, and like clockwork, he ran straight to Mom. That Thursday night, 11 p.m., my phone rang. Mom was frantic. "Marcus, your brother made some mistakes, but he's learned his lesson. You know how he is. He just gets too excited, doesn't think things through. He never meant to hurt anyone. He just needs help before this ruins his life. Could you loan him $8,000 to pay back the investors?" $8,000 on top of the $1,800 rent I was already covering, on top of the car insurance, on top of the endless bills Mom had slid onto my tab like it was nothing. I told her the truth she didn't want to hear. "Mom, this isn't a mistake. It's fraud. He took money under false pretenses, and he blew it on himself instead of the business he promised. That's not bad planning. That's criminal." But to her, I was being dramatic. "It's not fraud, Marcus. He intended to build the app. Things just didn't work out. That's how business is. He needs our support, not judgment." And for the first time in a year and a half, I said no. I couldn't keep bailing him out. If Tyler was ever going to learn that actions have consequences, this had to be it. She lost it, screaming, accusing me of being selfish, of abandoning my family when they needed me most. "Your father would be ashamed of you," she said, her voice shaking. "Real men step up for family. Real men don't let their brothers' lives fall apart over money." That was Tuesday. By Friday, Tyler had miraculously paid back his friends. My guess? Mom had either drained her savings or borrowed against the house. 2 weeks later, Emma called me out of the blue. She needed $350 for a lab fee and sounded stressed. When I asked why she wasn't going through Mom like usual, she hesitated. Then she told me the truth. Mom had finally admitted I'd been the one helping with school all along. Emma said, "I never realized you were contributing so much. I thought it was all from Dad's insurance or Mom's savings." That's when it clicked. Mom had outed me, not out of honesty, but strategy, a way to guilt me deeper, to show Tyler how much I'd already invested. So maybe I'd cave and cover that $8,000 too. And then came Easter. Mom called like it was any other year, confirming the menu, reminding me about Grandma's potato salad recipe I'd promised to bring. But then her tone shifted. "Actually, Marcus, I've been thinking, maybe this Easter should be for successful family members only." I laughed at first, thought it was a joke, but she kept going. Tyler's social media business was really taking off. Nearly 900 followers, big opportunities ahead. Emma had just joined some exclusive research program. And me? You're still in the same apartment, same job, same routine. What are you going to say when people ask about your accomplishments? That you're still doing tech support. "I'm a senior network engineer." I corrected her. "Same thing. It's not inspiring, Marcus." Then she twisted the knife. "It might be better if you sit this one out. Maybe next year you'll have something to be proud of." I stood there, phone in hand, stunned. She was actually uninviting me from Easter, from the one tradition that had always held our family together. Not because I wasn't family, but because I wasn't successful enough in her eyes. Even while I was the one financing the success she couldn't stop bragging about. The audacity left me breathless. "Are you seriously cutting me out because you don't think I measure up?" "I'm not cutting you out," she said sweetly. "I'm giving you motivation. A wake-up call. Do better, Marcus. Next year, maybe you'll have accomplishments worth sharing. I hung up, no words left, just 2 straight hours of pacing my apartment in shock. Because in that moment, it finally hit me. This woman would never see me for what I truly was. She uninvited me from Easter, our most important family tradition, and not because of scheduling or some argument that got out of hand, but because I wasn't successful enough to meet her standards. The same woman whose phone I had been answering for 18 straight months every time her golden children needed money. That was the breaking point. Enough was enough. I opened my banking app, stared at the list of automatic payments, and started hitting cancel. Tyler's rent, gone. Emma's monthly support, gone. Tyler's car insurance, the gym membership, even a family cell phone plan I'd taken over to help Mom save money. All of it gone with a few clicks. Then I typed out one last group text to Mom, Tyler, and Emma. Just heard Easter is for successful children only. Good luck with next month's bills. I'm sure Tyler's 847 Instagram followers will help with the rent. And with that, I blocked their numbers. The blowback came fast, and it came nuclear. Mom called from every phone she could get her hands on, her work line, neighbors, even distant relatives. Each message carried a different version of the story. Sometimes it was all a misunderstanding. Sometimes I'd overreacted to a little joke. Other times, she painted herself as a worried mother. Just try to give me space so I could work on myself. Tyler's response was more direct. 2 days later, he showed up at my apartment complex, pacing the parking lot like a caged animal. I watched from my window as he tried to talk his way past security, leaving messages with management, even shouting about how I was destroying his life over something petty. When security escorted him out, he left a note under my windshield. Bro, I don't know what Mom told you, but this isn't cool. Rent's due in 3 days. You cutting me off affects my credit score, my living situation. I could end up homeless because of your tantrum. We're supposed to be family. Call me back. We can work this out like adults. Not a word of apology. Not a single acknowledgement of the 18 months I'd carried him. Just outrage that his personal ATM had finally shut down. Emma's reaction cut from a softer angle. She sent long, emotional emails from her university account. She said my sudden withdrawal was jeopardizing her education, maybe even forcing her to drop out. I don't understand why you're punishing me for whatever happened between you and Mom, she wrote. I've been working so hard to make you proud. My education shouldn't be a weapon in your family drama. The guilt trip was relentless, and then the rest of the family joined in. My grandmother called to lecture me about loyalty. She'd been told I was punishing Tyler and Emma over a silly fight with Mom. Marcus, blood is thicker than water. We didn't raise our children to abandon family over money. My aunt started sending screenshots of Tyler's Instagram posts about fake family and cutting out toxic people. The irony? Completely lost on him. Meanwhile, the pressure only grew worse. Emma's advisor called Mom about unpaid tuition fees. Tyler got a 5-day eviction notice. His $400 a month business wasn't covering $1,800 in rent, and Mom was now hysterical, swearing his whole future was about to collapse if I didn't swoop in. Her voicemail was 20 minutes long, crying, begging, telling me Dad would be ashamed if I let this happen. And yeah, part of me felt guilty. He was still my brother. The thought of him being homeless wasn't easy to shake. But then I remembered that one line that started it all. Easter is for successful children only. That was the moment the guilt burned away and the clarity set in. Emma's words still rang in my head. Her promises, her tears, her insistence that she'd make it right one day. But promises couldn't erase 18 months of silence, of being used without thanks. And just when I thought I was steady in my decision, guilt came creeping back in. Tyler had moved back home, crashing on Mom's couch. My aunt painted the picture in brutal detail during one of her guilt-laced calls. Tyler, exhausted, driving DoorDash shifts 12 hours a day. Mom, 52 years old, working nights stocking grocery shelves after a full-time job, her back aching, her body breaking. She's killing herself because you decided to be selfish, my aunt said, and the words landed heavy. The truth was, yes, they were struggling, and I had the money to help. That knowledge sat like a weight in my chest. But every time my resolve wavered, every time compassion tugged at me, I remembered Easter. I remembered sitting there, listening to my own mother dismiss me, uninvited me from the one tradition that had always bound us together. Not good enough, not successful enough. That memory hardened my heart. And then came the turning point. I ran into her, my mother, by accident, under the fluorescent lights of an H-E-B grocery store. She stood there in khaki pants and a red polo, her name tag pinned like a badge of exhaustion. Her face was worn, older than I remembered, dark circles carved deep under her eyes. For a second, she looked fragile, someone I barely recognized. And when she spotted me by the avocados, her expression shifted through a storm of emotions. Shock, anger, desperation, and finally, resignation. "Marcus," she said, her voice flat, defeated. "Mom," I answered. We stood there, pretending to shop, but really just circling around the weight of years. And then she started rewriting the story. Easter had been a misunderstanding, she said. Just a joke, taken too seriously. She wasn't being cruel. She was worried about me, worried that I was working hard, but not really living, that maybe I needed space, motivation, perspective. It was masterful. She wasn't the mother who cut me out of Easter. She was a mother who cared too much. But I wasn't buying it. What I really want, I told her, is respect. Not to be treated like an ATM you insult when it's convenient. Her mask cracked, just for a moment, and then came the plea. Tyler's depression. Emma's dream of becoming a doctor. The crushing weight of bills. Her body giving out. Her voice trembled as she said the words. "I need your help, Marcus. Not just for them. For me. I can't keep doing this." And for a moment, I almost gave in. She was my mother, standing there tired, broken, human. But then the reel played back in my mind. All those months of silent expectation, of sacrifices dismissed, of being told I wasn't good enough while quietly paying for their survival. So I asked her point blank, "When you uninvited me from Easter, did you ever think about the fact that I'd been paying Tyler's rent? That Emma was in school without needing a job because of me?" She couldn't look me in the eye. And in that silence, I had my answer. I walked away, leaving her standing in the produce aisle, smaller than I'd ever seen her. The next day, Emma finally called me herself, her voice softer, honest this time. She admitted the truth. She never knew. Mom had told her the money came from insurance and savings. For the first time, I heard real gratitude, and then determination. She promised to find work, apply for scholarships, take control of her own life. It was the first spark of accountability in this whole mess. Tyler, though, he was another story. He found me after work, waiting in the parking lot, rage boiling over. "You're really going to let me be homeless because Mom hurt your feelings about some stupid dinner?" he shouted. And in that moment, it was clear he still didn't get it. He stared at me, caught off guard. "Thank me for what?" he snapped. "I thought Mom was paying it out of her savings." I didn't let him off that easy. Even if she was, did you ever once thank her? Did you ever stop to ask how she managed to cover your expenses on her salary? Silence. The thought had never even crossed his mind. Then, like clockwork, he grew defensive. "Look, I busted my ass working part-time jobs while trying to build my social media. The influencer business takes time. I was finally getting traction before all this family drama blew up." Traction? I almost laughed. "Tyler, 847 followers after 3 years isn't traction. That's a hobby." He bristled, his tone sharp. Not everyone wants to clock in and clock out of some boring office job and call it success. There was that contempt I knew too well. To him, my career was dull, unambitious, undeserving of respect. Yet, ironically, that boring job had been paying his bills for a year and a half. "You're right, Tyler," I said quietly. "I don't understand entrepreneurship. What I do understand is paying rent on time, showing up every day, and not conning people out of their money. Maybe try understanding that sometime." He called me jealous and stormed off. Hours later, His Instagram lit up with a long story about toxic family members who can't handle your success. The lack of self-awareness was staggering. 3 months after that Easter disaster, Mom finally reached out. She wanted to meet, not at home, not at Tyler's place, but at a Panera Bread across town. Neutral ground. And for the first time in years, she seemed humble. She sat across from me, her voice low. "Marcus, I owe you an apology. Not just for Easter, but for everything. I've taken you for granted because you've always been the stable one. You don't cause drama. You don't need rescuing. I started seeing your support as automatic instead of generous." Her words caught me off guard. She admitted the Easter comment had been cruel, born out of stress and money worries, and she said I didn't deserve to be the punching bag. I asked about Tyler. She sighed. "He's 25. He has to figure out himself. I've enabled him long enough." Then, almost as an afterthought, she smiled. "Emma's doing well, by the way. She got that work-study job in the chem lab, landed 2 small scholarships, and even found a paid internship. She's managing her own expenses now." For once, I felt encouraged. Mom wasn't asking for more money. She just wanted me to know she understood the damage she'd done, and that maybe someday we could rebuild on respect instead of expectation. We talked for over 2 hours. It wasn't a full reconciliation, but it was the closest we'd ever come. As for Tyler, his reckoning finally came. With rent overdue and no one left to bail him out, he swallowed his pride and took a night shift at FedEx, loading trucks. Grueling hours, modest pay, the exact kind of job he had mocked for years. And yet, something shifted. The structure gave him stability. The paycheck gave him dignity. He stopped posting fantasies about being an influencer and started talking about logistics, operations, and maybe working his way up. At dinner, 6 months later, he admitted it himself. "I never realized how stressful it was not knowing if I could make rent, having a steady paycheck. It feels good." For the first time in a long time, Tyler sounded grounded. He never came out and apologized for the years I'd carried him, never once acknowledged the sacrifices I'd made. But something in him shifted. For the first time, he showed genuine curiosity about my work, even asked for career advice. Small steps, but steps forward all the same. Emma's story, though, that was nothing short of inspiring. She graduated summa cum laude and earned a spot at UT Southwestern Medical School with a hefty merit scholarship. She told us that managing her own expenses in that last year of college had been the best kind of trial by fire. Working part-time while balancing studies had forced her to budget, to prioritize, to grow up fast. "It made me value my education more," she said. "It gave me discipline." And she wasn't just chasing prestige. She wanted to specialize in family medicine, to serve underserved communities. The financial struggles had given her perspective on what hardship really does to a person's health. And me? I finally got my promotion, senior systems architect, a raise that pushed me past 6 figures. With the money, I wasn't funneling into family emergencies anymore. I finally gave myself something I've been denying for years, a trip to Japan. 2 weeks in Tokyo, Kyoto, Hiroshima, wandering, exploring, free of guilt and free of anyone else's bills. I sent photos to the family group chat. Mom texted back, "You look so happy and relaxed. I'm proud of you for doing something just for yourself. You deserve that trip." That single message hit deeper than she probably realized. For once, she wasn't criticizing, wasn't suggesting ways I could do better. She was just proud. By the time Easter rolled around again, something had changed. We gathered at my aunt's house. Everyone invited, everyone welcome. Tyler showed up not empty-handed, but with homemade dinner rolls he'd baked himself. Emma organized a meal, kept cleanup smooth and easy. Mom sat beside me, asking questions about my projects, and actually listening to my answers. It wasn't perfect, but for the first time in years, it felt like family.